Well, good morning. Good morning. I am going to get into this. So if you join in, I'm going to go ahead and get into this message because I think it is a very important message, and we can all take notice of the message that is been given. And so I want to talk about this message because it is very important. And Ken Porrow tells us true love is built on free will and free choice, but not control and manipulation. So true love is built on free will and free choice, not control and manipulation. And we know that a lot of times people can be controlled by a lot of things, not just people. They can be controlled by entities, controlled by stuff, controlled by organizations, controlled by cults, controlled by government, by banks, uh, how you do business or how they do business with you, the community that you try to reside in or the community that you live in, governing housing. There is a lot of control that can happen in a person's life. And if we don't talk about the control trap, how you are being controlled and how the media will control you based on the information that they put out there, how the media will report one-sided information to can get your mind to be manipulated into thinking certain things about stuff and other people. The government can put out information to get people to be controlled and their minds manipulated to see it one way. And once it's embedded in your mind, it's hard a lot of times for people to change their mindset. And we've seen a lot of this that has happened in a lot of these cases of rich Black men and even some white men, where the media painted a picture and people ran with it and their minds were manipulated, and so now they are having a hard time believing that the things that have been put out here in the media are not true when they are not true, but they're having a hard time believing it because they have been manipulated, their mind manipulated for so long that they believe false narratives. And then sometimes people will never believe the truth. And so some people will be found guilty on false narratives. Some people will be found innocent when they're really guilty. So there's a lot of mind manipulation that goes on, and it can impact you negatively. Negatively. It can impact you. Impact you negatively. You can feel entrapped and unable to express your true feelings or to do what you wanted to do. And there are some people that will come and attack you to get you to be controlled by them by constantly provoking and attacking and making up stories to get you to succumb to what they want you to do and be. And even there is systems and organizations that will keep coming at you and throwing things at you and piling on things and piling on charges and allegations to get you to do what they want you to do. And so as we talk about Joyce Meyer and what she's doing, and the people that have been following me, I thank you so much for following me. I thank you for tuning in. I thank you even when you're not able to tune in because you can catch the replay. I thank you for all the new subscribers that have joined my channel recently. Thank you all for shouting out my channel. Thank you for promoting it and forwarding the videos and sharing them. Thank you so much, because it's truly appreciated. Everybody may not want to hear what thus saith the Lord, what they give you. And when I say that I decrease and God increases in me, and when there's a message to be brought, sometimes people don't want to hear the message, and what they don't want to hear, they will not listen to. And a lot of times what they don't want to listen to, they will not receive. But I'm okay with that, because I know that no one will please everybody. And I understand that people can do their own thing and listen to who they want to. But I will continue to bring the messages that I believe that God has given me and instilled in me. I wake up days and there's a message and I'm struggling with it. Then there's days that I'm going, God wants the people to hear this. And then I pray about what God wants people to hear. And so in this message, God has given me some information that I just shared with you about how people are being controlled. And now we have the black people acting like the white supremacists, and they've jumped on bandwagons and crabs in the barrel, and they are being controlled by the white media and the masses. And why do the white supremacists need to do what they're doing when they have our own people they can use to do it? And a big thing is money, because a lot of times black people have struggled in poverty, and so they don't want to struggle anymore. So they buy into things, and they're manipulated, and they're impacted by the things because of the money. And so therefore, but you know that the scripture says the love of money. And I see a lot of people go, the money is the root of all evil. But they forget the first part of that scripture. The love of money is the root of all evil. When you love money so much that you will do anything to hurt others and to lie on them and to manipulate and tell the story, your story of many decades of lying to get money, to get fame and fortune, that's the love of money. It's the root of all evil. When you lie on folks to get stuff that you feel like you cannot work for, that you don't have enough faith to struggle, strive, to thrive, you have a problem. When you feel like you are less than, and you'll never amount to something, and you got to rely on the government to use you to make up stories to get stuff, especially things that other people have been waiting for, that's a sad situation. That's where you're being controlled. And so let's get into this. Are you stuck in the control trap? Are you stuck in the control trap? Now, you don't have to answer to me, but you might want to answer to Christ about being stuck in the control trap. And I've explained it, told you before, that the word stuck, thank you for the thumbs up. I truly appreciate the word stuck is a word that is used in counseling, is used in therapy, because it's used in human services. Stuck, because sometimes people get stuck and they don't know how to get out of that place of being stuck. They can't deliver themselves, but God can. But you have to have a change of mindset. You have to be willing to get unstuck. Now, however you get unstuck is up to you. Some people get unstuck by resulting in a fit of rage and violence. And some people get unstuck by saying, I stand up verbally, I'm leaving you, and you are not going to hold me back. And they walk out the door. Some people have to fight their way out the door. Some people just walk away. Some people become silent and become numb. They are stuck. And when they get stuck like this, it is a problem, because they're not able to express themselves freely, and they're not able to move freely when they're stuck. And so if you've ever encountered a controlling person, you know that being under the influence is like being trapped. When you meet a controlling person, it's like being under the influence, like being trapped, being trapped. And if you are a person that recognizes a controlling person from the very beginning, when you meet them and you start talking to them, and you could tell some of the things that they're saying and how their eyes and their expressions and body language, That's the discernment that God has given you to recognize this is a controlling person. Do I want a controlling person in my life? Can I entertain a controlling person? Will I be okay dealing with the controlling person? Now, in management, for many years, I dealt with controlling people. They want to control the narrative. They want to control what they do on a day-to-day basis. But when you know there is a workflow and there's a policy and procedure in place, you have to follow those. Not all of the policies are set by the supervisor or manager or the director of the department. Some policies, a lot of them are set by HR, and we know HR to be human resources. And some people don't want to follow policies and procedures. They want to control and manipulate the system, co-workers, and people. And when folks fight back and say, stop it, and recognize it, they have a problem with that. A controlling person has a problem with that. And then we sometimes call them control freaks. And forgive me if that's offensive, but sometimes people are called control freaks when they keep trying to control people and they're over the top. Now, it's okay to control situations that are appropriate, that need to be controlled, because you can't have so much out of order. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can't have so much chaos and out of order. So sometimes you have to control situations. You have to control the crowd. You have to control your surroundings. But when it becomes a point of you controlling other folks that bring harm and manipulation, then it becomes harmful. And sometimes even dangerous. Sometimes people are so controlling that they will hold people captive. They will not let people go anywhere without themselves. And if they go, they come back, they have all type of false allegations against the person from walking away. See, we're talking about, are you stuck in the control trap? And so although they might not even physically ensnare you, but their control is impacting your thinking. And so negatively, that you may have felt trapped, unable to express your true feelings or do what you wanted to do. Now, maybe you are living in that situation right now. Now, I don't know who you are, and I don't know who you are, but somebody out here may be living in a situation right now that's controlling. They are being controlled in the mind. It feels like they are incarcerated in their mind. You don't have to be physically incarcerated to feel incarcerated, like prison in your mind. You don't have to be a prisoner behind prison walls to feel like a prisoner in your mind. Your mental state can cause you to feel like a prisoner when you have been through some trauma, when you have been through some things and folks have manipulated you, folks have controlled your finances, your access to things. They have controlled a lot of situations. You can feel controlled and feel as a prisoner in your mind, your mental state. And so if you have ever been controlled or being controlled currently, I encourage you to stay with me. I encourage you to join in and to come in the chat if you can, if you will, but to join in, because the better you understand it, the sooner you can begin to break free from the control trap. Okay. So Joyce says, we often ask why the people who try to control us behave as they do. We don't always understand why they're behaving the way they do. We have to go back and look at the root of the problem. Sometimes we have to find out their backgrounds and find out what their childhood was like and what their family was like to get to the root of the problem, to find out why somebody is very controlling. It can be because they're insecure. Good morning, Heal the Land. It can be because they're insecure. It can be that they never had a lot, and so what they get, they have to control it. It could be that they searching for love, and so they haven't had love. So when they feel like they got love, they got to control the person because they don't know how to love and be secure within themselves. There is a lot of reasons why people control others. There's a lot of reasons why people have attributes of of controlling others. And I'm not talking about positive attributes, because controlling someone is unhealthy. Controlling a person and not allowing them to be free to who they need to be and should be and be able to express themselves is not healthy. It's an unhealthy relationship and unhealthy situation. And so you might know some people that were very controlling in your life. Maybe a family member, maybe an ex-spouse, maybe an ex-boss, or maybe your boss right now that you report to is controlling. And maybe you get all uptight when they show up in the workplace. I used to know some folks that I worked with, and when the big boss would come, everybody would start running and they would get, oh, you didn't? Oh, wow. Sometimes that happens to me and I'll be wondering, what did I do? So I go out, and I know that we've said this before, and I'm sure you've done that before, where you unsubscribe and resubscribe, or you hit the notification that says receive all notifications. I'm not sure about YouTube. So when I notice that I'm not getting them, I hit that notification again to show that I need to receive all of them. And then it'll tell me I will. Then I start getting them again. It's so weird. And so I thank you for joining in. I thank you for joining in. So you may have to catch, the first part of what I was saying. So you might, so they show up, the big boss, and everybody gets in an uproar, and they sit in they workstations, and everybody is, just sitting there and looking like they're busy because they feel, here come the big boss, and that big boss can control whether you keep your job or not. The big boss can control if you get talked to or disciplinary because you might have not been sitting the right way, or okay, thank you. Or you might not been looking a certain way with a smile on your face if you work in customer service. Or you might have been standing around talking to coworkers, and here come the big boss. And so you got to run back to your desk and sit down and act like you was doing something. People are so controlled. And then when you think about the media, how the media is controlling one side of the narrative, and they don't want to put out the truth. But when you keep speaking out, it's going to take some time, because if you can see that they start to put out some things about this just major case that just happened, right? And they start to put out a few things that were not so controlling. And so we look at the government, and look at over in other countries where their people are controlled. They can't freely be themselves. They can't freely speak out. They don't even allow their First Amendment rights. We have them, but they can't freely speak out over there. We're in America. They're in another country. They cannot have the babies that they want to have. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And there are bosses, like you said, Hildeland, that are controlling. And so when I was doing management and I was like, I'm not micromanaging anyone, and I'm going to keep it real. Let me tell you something. I cannot micromanage you and feel okay. I have bigger fish to fry, other things to do. So I'm not going to stand over you and control what you do. You know the policy. I've given it to you. You know your job. I've trained you. I keep you update on training. I keep you update on updates on updates on updates on updates, if you will, if you know what I mean. And I help you to grow so that you can be better than who you are, so that maybe one day you might want to level up and be in a higher position. So therefore, I don't have time to control you and micromanage you, because most of the time when folks feel like they need to be controlled, that's because they haven't grown enough, and they've probably been in a controlling situation or environment growing up, and they felt controlled. So now they feel like you have to do it. And when you don't stand over them and appease them with micromanaging behaviors, they have a problem with it. Then they will go, well, you didn't say this to me. You didn't tell me this. You don't talk to me. You don't say hello to me. They start these little silly, childish things, minute things. But we have to go back and get to the root of the problem. We have to see where that person came from. What is your background? When it comes to work ethic, and if they start sharing their personal lives, you will find out that they have had some situations that they have never healed from. And that's why they're able to fall into a trap of being controlled. And then you have the people that will try to control you, or they are very controlling people. And so you have to understand, Let me look at their background. Let me see where they've come from. What have they been through that makes them want to control other people? So we have to ask some questions about that. And a lot of times, a person that's controlling, they often cowered under unreasonable demands because they're afraid. They are afraid. So the person that's controlling the person that's being controlled are afraid they might be fired on their job. So they allow the controller to continue to control them. They allow the controller to continue to control them. They may be searching for love in a relationship. And if they speak up, they're afraid to speak up. Because if they do speak up, the person can threaten them and say, I'm going to leave you. I don't want to be with you no more. I'm going to leave you. You're not going to find anyone else to love you. You're nothing. And they start saying negative things to that person. They're threatening them that you're not worthy. No one's never going to be with you. I'm the only one. When you start to speak up. And some people have started to speak up. And when they did, this is what they got. So they decided, well, I'm not speaking up anymore because they're going to leave me. I'm going to lose everything. I'm afraid to be on the street. I'm afraid to go without. And they get worried about those things. But I want you to know that God is a mighty God. And he doesn't want you to be controlled by the media and by the masses and by money and stuff and by people. He doesn't want you to be controlled that way. God does not want you to walk around in fear with a burden on your heart and a chip on your shoulder. He doesn't want that for you. He wants you to be able to freely choose, just like he gave us the freedom to choose or deny him. He wants us to be able to freely choose who we are, what we say, and what we do. And then it's up to us to walk in the light that God has given us and to follow the biblical statutes. And so sometimes we have to finally find the courage to follow your heart and leave. And sometimes when you get tired, you're tired. And even if some people tell you, you shouldn't put up with that. You don't have to put up with that. I love you. I'll help you. And if they're not tired enough, some people won't ever leave their controller because they're not tired enough. And some of them are just so caught up. Some people call it brainwash, that they're so caught up in it that they don't know another way. They've never been taught another way. This is the way. And so, so you can be controlled for years. And when you finally walk away, follow your heart, get tired of being controlled, you might find yourself angry with the employer or with your ex-partner or spouse or family member or whoever it was controlling you. You will feel angry at yourself or angry at those people because you allowed them to control you for years. But the surprise is that God will tell you that you're just as guilty as they are. You are just as guilty as the controller because you let them control you, because you succumb to man and you didn't follow God. You allowed man to manipulate you and you put away or forgot about what God said about you, that you're valued and you should know your worth. God already told us what our worth is. So we don't have to allow people to control us. So if you are being controlled, you have a responsibility to stop it, because as long as you allow it to go on, you are enabling abusive behavior. You are enabling abusive behavior when you allow yourself to be controlled and you don't stop it. And I know that breaking free from control requires confrontation. And I know some people that don't like to confront anyone. They are afraid. They don't want to be in a battle back and forth. And you've seen it a lot on social media platforms where folks are battling back and forth because they are confronting the person that's trying to control them. And when we talk about cults control the people. And they use the term, again, brainwash. But those folks are stuck. They're stuck under their controller's behavior. They're stuck under their controller, the one that's controlling. They are stuck and there's a mind manipulation going on. They don't have to be physically stuck, just physically stuck, but they are mentally stuck. Because you can be physically stuck in a concentration camp, but if your mind is not physically stuck, you can get through it and eventually be released, or you can eventually get out of it. They can release you, or maybe you can escape. And I remember this therapist, and I can't recall his name at the time. And when I was pursuing, before I got my undergrad, degree, I remembered it, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was in a concentration camp. And he talked about how he was, in this camp. He was in prison. He couldn't leave. But in his mind, he did not allow his mind to be stuck. He did not allow his mind to be controlled. And that's the good news, that if you're in a situation, in a room, and you're locked in, but your mind is really important, you got to fight against it. You got to cancel it out. You got to pray that no weapon formed against your mind shall prosper when you are stuck in a situation like that. And then there are the people that they are stuck, incarcerated, and then their mind becomes stuck. And they develop the mentality of the controllers. They develop the mentality of the people that are controlling them, and they're stuck. And it's difficult for them to get out of those situations. And so you have to be able to confront folks that are doing these things. And there's a way to do it. You don't have to yell and scream. You can say, look, you can talk to them about it and let them know, that they are controlling, and that you have basic rights to think the way you want to believe what you want, to receive what you like to have, what you like to see yourself as, or who you like to see yourself become. You have a right to move around freely. You have a right to think freely. You have a right to vote who you want to vote for. You have a right to think the things and have a mind of your own, because God has created us uniquely, authentically us. He created us, and we are different, and he likes an infinite variety. So we have a right to be free. Freedom in Jesus Christ. Freedom to be who we are, that God has created us to be. And when folks try to hold you captive, then there's a problem. And some people say, no, I'm not letting you hold me captive. There are some strong-willed people that will not allow you to hold them captive. And sometimes it leads to violence. I've seen where sometimes people are held captive and it leads to violence. And I'll tell you something. I have a video, and I don't know if anyone got a chance to see it. And it's about this teenager that was taken at knife point in Des Moines, Iowa. And she was taken. Good morning, Miss Tanya. How are you? Welcome. And she was taken at knife point, and she was held captive, and she was AR'd. The word R, we call that. She was sexually assaulted and repeatedly. Then he had other men. He was trafficking her. And so he was sleeping, and you can go watch the video. I have it on my YouTube, but I'll just give you a small overview. And he was sleeping. She, in a fit of rage, stabbed him to death because she felt trapped and endangered. And that's why when you are being controlled by someone and you feel trapped and in danger and you feel threatened for your life, it can lead to violence. It can lead to violence. Now, we don't want to see violence, and it lead there, but it did. And so you got to go and watch the video, because there's there's a lot to the video, and it is trending a little on social media. I've seen it on other channels. But anyway, this is what happens. And then there are some people that find it hard to control other people. Why? Because they know that confrontation usually brings anger and blame from the controller. So they just accept to keep doing the same old thing, and they hate it. There are people that are hating their life right now because they are controlled and they don't want to be, but they know that if they speak out and confront the controller, that they will be blamed and it will be manipulation, and it's a battle back and forth. So they just decide not to do anything about it. And they will even, it goes as far as them winding up disrespecting themselves for allowing it to go on, but yet do nothing to stop it. So if you're being controlled, if you're stuck in the control trap, I encourage you to stand up, to step out, and to confront the controller. And if you feel you can't do it, pack your bags and walk away. Pack your bags when they're not around and walk away. Sometime if you are not able to confront your controller, you pack your bags if you live with them and walk away. If you're on a job and they're doing this, and I know we need jobs. God knows we need money to earn and to work to earn an earnest living. Start looking elsewhere if you can, if you will, or confront your boss that's doing the controlling. Because who wants to be micromanaged when they're competent to come to work and show up each day and do what the policies and procedures and your job says to do, and you're outstanding and upstanding doing it? No one wants to be controlled like that. So, and some of us have been in that situation before where you have been the controller and also the person being controlled. And I find this in abuse cases where there will be a victim that has been controlled growing up. Something happened to them and they were controlled, they were afraid, and they were violated. And then they grow up to become a controller because they were controlled. And are we saying that's okay? No. But in order to get to a healthy place in any relationship, is to get help, is to get therapy and have a good support system. And so if you find yourself that you've been the controller and you are being controlled, you have to understand both sides of the control equation. And I gave a little example there of the control equation because that can happen. That can actually happen where you have been on both sides. And so people control others and allow themselves to be controlled mainly out of fear. It's out of fear, as I was saying earlier in the video, but someone who controls others, and I'm going to say this because it's true, they are selfish and they usually have an exaggerated opinion of themselves, of their own importance. They have an exaggerated opinion of themselves, of their own importance. And that's why they like to control other people, because it's exaggerated in who they are or who they think they are. And when you look in the mirror, because I have a mirror to my right. So when I look in the mirror and see myself, I ask God, what is it that I need to change about who I am, Lord, to please you and be better, to make sure that I'm not hurting other people and harming others when I step out in the world. And I learned this. I raised one son, and I remember saying that he has to be free to be who he is, but also raising him up in the church, having him in Sunday school and Bible study with his peers and under people that, can teach him the word, and that they're not false prophets and they're not actors in the church, but they are real human beings that love God and want to teach the youth to be better and teach them about Christ, right? And so I had at some point had to lift my child back up to God and give them back up to God, because we have to let our children grow, and we have to let them glow, and we have to let them know that they are important and they're valued, and they have a right to choose and deny when they get a certain age. But we have to let them grow and go make their own decisions. And I know some parents today are still trying to control their adult children, but you can't control adult children because they will only start to resent you. So what I'm saying is, there is a healthy way to raise your children. There's a healthy way to be in relationships if you want good relationship without controlling them and knowing that they're still going to be okay. Are we going to worry about our children? Yes, we are. Are we going to be concerned? Yes, we are. But we still got to stay prayerful for them. You know, it's nothing like a mother's prayer. My mother prayed for me, had me on her mind. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to pray for our children, but we also got to let them go. But we lift them back up to God. We cannot control others, because we fear something is going to happen to them, because they have to soon move on. And even some of them will move on and take, if you have a son, will take a wife. If you have a daughter, will take a husband. So we gotta, give them that. And so, but this exaggerated opinion that some folks have, of themselves, can cause confusion, and it can cause you to resent them because they got this exaggerated opinion. And you might like that person and you might want to be around them, but this exaggerated opinion of them leads to these controlling behaviors that you cannot stand. And sometimes relationships are destroyed and broken up because somebody that wants to control the narrative of everything and control what the other person does. And it's a problem. It can lead to harm. And no one wants to feel a captive in a relationship. No one wants to feel captive in their own home. No one wants to feel captive on their job. And we see that we see how they control the narrative out here. We see it. And they try to control the votes. Let's just be real. There's things about this. Are you stuck in the control trap? You have got to vote for the person that aligns with your views, that you feel is the best candidate for what they're running for. Don't allow the media or mass manipulation to control you. I tell you that my mother, she doesn't live in the same state I live in, right? And they came out. Now, let me tell you how folks are sneaky. They like to do some controlling, underhanded stuff, right? So my mother told me that when they were running had their election, before the election, they were going around putting signs in folks' yard, right? Now, they're supposed to ask you, can I put a sign in your yard of who the candidate is that they're campaigning for, right? May I place a sign in your yard? Now, if you're out in the community, a street corner that has some dirt, or whatever, gravel where you can stick the sign. I see what you're saying here. And that can be difficult. That can truly be different because as a parent, it's hard for you to get involved, but you see those things. And that's really difficult a lot of times as parents, to see somebody in a relationship with someone controlling, Miss Tanya, and you what do you do? And as a parent, you want to still have that relationship with your child. You don't want to lose that relationship, because if you start speaking up, they can start pushing you away and become isolated. And then that the controller can start to get them even more of an upper hand on your child, your adult child, and you don't want to lose sight of that. You don't want to lose sight of your child. Now, getting back to the sign thing. So they came and they put this sign in my mother's yard without asking her. And my mother said, you don't put signs in my yard without asking me. So she confronted the campaigner and told him, you don't do that. You come and knock on my door and you ask me, can you place that sign? She said, but I'm not voting for that person. I don't know who that person is. So don't put signs in my yard and I don't know who they are, and you didn't get my permission. See, that's how some people that are control, they control you. They learn to control, they know how to control people because they do sneaky, deceptive things. And that's just one of the examples, right? But they do these sneaky little things, and that's how they learn to control. Oh, guess what? You wanted coffee, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but you wanted coffee, and you told them specifically what coffee that you wanted, the flavor, all of that, and how you wanted it, right? And they turn around and they don't bring you the coffee you asked for. They'll bring you coffee, but it won't be the coffee you asked for. And they might bring it black, but you liked it with sugar and cream and a vanilla flavoring or French flavoring, right? well, I brought you this and I wanted you to try this. And you're like, but wait a minute. You didn't ask me if I wanted to try my coffee, have my coffee done a different way. You didn't ask me. But see, it's just subtle little things. Or, you say you want this and you like a certain item or pair of shoes, and they go buy you something that you don't even like, that you're not going to wear. And there's nothing wrong with somebody wanting to bless you with gifts. But when you start to see certain things, not just one time, but a pattern of things, you got to wonder, are they trying to control me? And they want me to, because there are people that want you to dress a certain way. They want you to wear your hair a certain way. They want you to look a certain way. And they want you to fit into the narrative of who they think you should be. And I've shared this story with you before, if you've seen some of my other videos, where I'm a person that I very rarely wear makeup. In one of my videos, I just showed, I believe it was a shot of hope. I actually had put on lipstick and, eyeliner. And I'm not a person that wears makeup, but I said, okay, I'm going to this thing, this Mother's Day event. And I'm and actually the picture I showed me, but there's a picture of two women on each side of me, friends. And so, but I normally don't wear makeup because I walk a lot and I run a lot, right? And ride my bike and all of that. So and I don't normally wear makeup, right? And so I had these two women at two different times trying to control if I wear makeup or not. And they wanted me to wear it. And they told me, you know what they said to me? They said, you always dress so well, from your, attire, your accessories, all the way down to your shoes. They were giving me compliments. Now, mind you, this is two women decades apart. I kid you not. But they both wanted me to wear makeup and told me I wasn't complete without the makeup. And so, me, I talk, I come on my channel and I say what I need to say. And I said, you know what? I told them, I am complete because God says I'm complete. He created me. And in his creation of me, he completed me. And when I came out, there was no makeup. There was no cover up. I was who I was. And I told them, and I said, and I'm okay with who I am. See, you got to confront folks. You don't have to do it in a negative way. You don't have to do it in a violent way. Sometimes it leads to violence depending on the situation. And I will say that because I've seen it. And sometimes you have to protect yourself at all costs. And that's called defending yourself. But getting back to this, they wanted me to buy into the narrative of the manipulation of the mindset that I wasn't complete unless I had makeup on. And this one particular woman, she kept on, and I had to call her on her phone and ask to meet with her. And she was my friend, another Black woman, beautiful woman that wore a lot of makeup herself, that didn't even need it. And I told her, you don't need makeup. You're beautiful in your skin. She had beautiful skin. And I said to her, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't accept that because I'm beautiful in who I am. And I don't have to be controlled by anybody else because God has already accepted me. And I am who I am. And if other folks don't want to accept me with a naked face on, then that's on them. They have a problem with that, not me. And if you have a problem with me not wearing makeup, then you have to go to God and talk it over with God, because I am okay with who I am. And I don't feel that I need to let the public determine whether I wear makeup or not to feel complete. See, that's why we have to confront these people that's trying to control the narrative. Right. And we have to confront them. And there's the way to do it. And like I said, there's going to be different situations where they may be different outcomes in how you confront folks. And it really depends on the situation. But in this case, it was at work. And so I was able to talk to her about it. And I told her I found it offensive that she kept doing that, because I'm okay. And if I'm okay with who I am and God is okay with who he created, then you ought to be okay with it. And if you're not, you got a problem that you got to work out. And she said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I kept doing that. Yeah, because you're not going to make me feel less than who I am, because I've already been in that place. I've already been stuck. I've already been in a place where folks try to devalue day in and day out. And it doesn't stop. Even in management, people try to devalue me. People will try, even working with the city council. I'm not on it, but I go to the meetings. I work in my community. I stand up as an advocate for my community. And I've had this, believe me, white man, and I'm keeping it real, the engineer of the city, trying to tell me that I'm not going this and that, and I can't stand. I said, let me tell you something, Mr. Man. I said, you don't get to tell me what to advocate for. And I had to go there with him, with our neighborhood watch president, on the phone, because he kept coming there, and I had to call him out on his lies, call him out on the things he promised, but he failed to own up and failed to come through on. See, and then he tried to lie. So see, we got to confront folks, because they want to control your community. They want to control what they build in your community. They want to control where they put the stoplight. See, we got to stand up and be advocates for ourselves. Stand up and not allow them to control you, because they'll control you. If you allow people to control you, they will. Now, you may not get everything you want, but guess what? You got to stand for you, and you got to be able to confront in the right manner. And then if you're in a dangerous situation and someone's coming at you, you have to protect yourself, because there are some folks out there that want to control you and don't even know you. There are strangers that will approach you and try to take advantage of you, because they are used to controlling other folks, because there's something wrong with them. And so you have got to be alert. You have got to be woke and awake, as God told his disciples not to fall asleep, but they fell asleep. And you see that a lot of stuff has happened because folks have fallen asleep. But it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to see what's going on in this government with these laws they're passing, what folks is trying to do to control the narrative. It's time for us to be woke, and it's time for us to stand up and say, you no longer will control me. I will no longer be enslaved to what you're trying to do. And so, so controllers, in their pride, they are convinced that their way is the only way to do things. And that's the only right way to do it when people are controllers. And so I know that I used to tell my team, if it's another way to do it, do it. But if it doesn't work out that way, then this is the way that we've trained you. But if you figured out another way that doesn't violate policy, privacy, doesn't violate others, doesn't mess up anything, there is more than one way to do things. I'm open to that. I'm okay with that. But again, this is the way I'm teaching you. This is the way I'm training you. And so it's okay. But it's not only one way to do things. It's not only one way. And that's what we need to understand. And then they will insist that it be done that way. See, I'm not going to insist anything be done a certain way if there's another way to accomplish the goal, to accomplish what you're trying to do. I'm not going to insist that it be done that way if you can accomplish it to be done another way. And it still gets the mission done, right? Still gets the task done. And another thing is, controllers are rarely open to listening to other opinions. They're rarely open to it, let alone actually considering them valuable. And there's controllers out here that will not consider you valuable. And so therefore, they're always trying to control the narrative. And we have to let people know that I'm valued. I am worthy and valuable. And you have to know your worth and know that you are valued and that God values you for who you are, because he created you. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the chat, Mr. J. He created you. So you have to know that there are some folks out here trying to control the narrative. They're trying to control other people. And do you not know that control creates fear? When you allow folks to control you, it's out of fear. And so let's look at some people who try to control others. Let's look at that. Normally, they only try to control people, but they also try to be in charge of what happens around them. And I'm going to throw this in here. We see what the I call it the Me Too movement, judicial system, because that's where, we saw this in the New York case with Mr. Kelly. And I'm just going to throw this in here. Let me do that. And they try to control the narrative around them. These rogue prosecutors. Yes, I said it, rogue prosecutors. And so they put out all these lies, and they put out all these allegations about this man for 30 years because they wanted to control the narrative. And so people ran around saying that there was someone 14 in the video, and they had a fourth video that they couldn't produce, and a sixth witness that they couldn't produce, but they still wanted to charge this man for because they wanted to control the narrative. And they're upset that this man was vindicated. He was found not guilty. He was acquitted of 7 major charges. And I'm going to throw this in here because it's so important when folks trying to control the narrative around you. See, we cannot let folks control the narrative around us. We got to speak the truth. We got to tell the story as the story that God has given us, because God is the truth. He doesn't make up stories. He doesn't lie. He presents the facts. And if you read the word, he's never lied about everything that he said he was going to do in the Bible. And just like he restored Job, he can restore Mr. Kelly. But we got to stand up and let the media know you're not controlling the narrative. We got to let the prosecution know, the government, you're not controlling the narrative. You tried to control it, but it didn't win in your favor. The outcome was favorable for Mr. Kelly. And would we like to see a true, real vindication of this mess? Yes, we would. But the major ones, they are been thrown in the sea of forgiveness. And we got to thank God that he came through, because see, sometimes when we don't have faith and we don't trust and believe, God will keep letting you hang on for a long time. But see, when we ask God to deliver us or to deliver circumstance, God will do what he said he's going to do. And we just got to hold on for a little while longer. And I say, Mr. Kelly, hold on for a little while longer. See, God's going to bless you. He's got a mission for you, but you got to be on board with the mission. Don't get off the boat, R. Kelly. See, some folks got off the boat and they fell in the water when Jesus told, don't get off the boat. Stay on the boat. You got to stay the course. You got to stay on the boat, because there's some folks out here trying to control the narrative, but we're not going to let them, because I got a big mouth and I'm going to speak the word as God has given it to. And see, they have a desire or a plan, and they expect others to give up their lives and help them get what they want. Mr. Kelly, don't give up your life. You might be incarcerated behind prison walls, but don't give up your life. Don't let them have your mind, Mr. Kelly. See, they want to manipulate your mind. They want to bring you down and say you're nothing. They want you to give up and say, I've fought the good fight and I can't go no more. But see, God says you can keep going, because within God and your weakness, God gives you strength to keep going. So they want you to succumb to their plan. See, the government has a plan, Mr. Kelly, but God's plan is different from the government. God's plan is higher than the government's plan. And if you got to hold on and wait and have patience, hold on, my brother, because God's going to see you through. See, God knows the plans for you. He has the plans for you. He thinks the good thoughts of you. And see, we're not perfect. He knows that we have blemishes. He created us that way. We fall down, but we get up. So don't grow weary, Mr. Kelly. Stand on the word of God, Mr. Kelly. Stand on your spiritual growth, Mr. Kelly. You have grown. I know you have, and I never met you, but I believe in my spirit that you have grown, and continue to surrender all to God, and he will see you through in his time. See, we don't work in our time. God don't work on our time. He works in his time, and I'm standing on the promises of God. See, I didn't get in this fight because I love somebody just so much and I idolize them. No, I got in this fight because I saw the injustice. I got in this fight because I saw what was wrong in the judicial system. I got in this fight because I saw so many of our black men being let out of prison 30 and 40 and 50 years that they were innocent, but they were put in prison anyway, even when they were innocent. I saw the narrative, how they changed the laws, how they manipulated the system, how they went back and wanted to charge some different crimes because they couldn't get a conviction on the ones that they originally presented. See, I seen some things and I learned some things, and I'm not afraid to tell you that I didn't know when I got in this fight. I had to learn some things. I had to grow. I had to listen. I had to be aware. I had to ask God to give me the discernment, and God gave it to me. So whether you come over over here and listen or not. God's trying to tell you something. And for the folks that don't want to hear it, you won't listen. And when you won't listen, you won't learn nothing. But see, I'm going to stand on the promises of God. So R. Kelly, this is your message, brother. Stand up and be strong, because we know there's some folks out there that wasn't willing to do what's right. They still not willing. And see, when the government gives immunity, that means they don't have a case, because the government doesn't have to give nobody immunity to get on the stand and take an oath and speak the truth. So they didn't have a case, but they got what they wanted. At least they think they got what they wanted, because see, the devil will make you think you got what you wanted, but you didn't get what you really wanted, because you wanted those 7 that you did not get. See, 7 is a divine number in the Bible. See, 7 is a number that God always used. 7 is a number, sevenfold, Mr. Kelly. Stand on that 7, because see, the ones that they found you not guilty of, they gone in the sea of forgiveness. They can never be brought back to bring charges against you again. So we got to thank God on that. So see, they have this desire, this plan. And see, when you don't succumb to their plan, then they get aggressive. Then they go, then guess what they do? They turn around and then they start making up stuff. And then they start lying. And can I say this too before we keep moving on? Because see, control creates fear. And I heard where the prosecutor was like, oh, well, we showed 4 videos. They didn't show no 4 videos. They flat out lied to the jury. And I want people to know that. They lied to the jury when they said that they showed 4 videos. They lied. And then they said the other thing. It was something else that they said. And it was like, no, they didn't. That's not what was said. And we got to speak the truth. See, that's what I'm saying about how they want to control the narrative. And then when they don't get what they want, they keep going and they put the pressure on. They keep putting the pressure on. But let me tell you something. R. Kelly, start sing, dance, praise God while you're in there. I heard you've been doing. I heard you've been singing. Praise God. Praise God. Because you know what? See, just like he released Paul, he can release you. He can release you just like he released Paul. See, because the government turned over some stones. See, the Bible says in Proverbs 26:27, clause B, he says, he that rolleth over a stone, it will be rolled back over on them, right? And your translation may be different, right? They rolled over a stone. And the stone, guess what came up out of the stone? See, they thought they was going to get some people, some bugs and critters and snakes that were going to be in their favor. But when they rolled over that stone, do you not know that the prosecution used some bugs, critters, roaches, and snakes that came out and it turned against them? Because they rolled over a stone, and God says, don't roll over that stone, it'll be rolled back up. Do you not know that there are witnesses that testified they were some snakes, and they used some snakes and critters and roaches. And we don't like roaches and bugs, most of us. And they used these snakes, critters, and roaches thinking that they was going to get 13 counts, 13 guilties. And they did not. Because the main ones was proven that he did not do those things. Obstruction of justice, conspiracy, he didn't do them. See, when they turned over that stone, it was rolled back over on them. It was rolled back over on them. And see, and common sense tells us we'll never know really who was on that tape. We don't know. And so we got to use common sense. So one of the primary ways people try to control others is by instilling fear in them. Like I said, and see, and some folks have controllers. Some folks have controllers in their life, and they will use that against you. Exactly, Mr. J. Exactly. And so they'll use this fear against other people. And I've had to, I tell you, it was this brother several months ago, and he had the audacity. Now listen. And I know y'all understand. It was this brother I had this conversation with. And I shared this before, but I'll share it again. And then we'll be almost done. But he He was trying to tell me that the judge knew he was innocent, and he had witnesses that came forth and said he was innocent, but they still convicted him. But he had the audacity to tell me that R. Kelly was guilty. I said, wait, brother. I said, have you read the transcripts? Have you been following any other the trial or case notes? You know, all this, the court notes. He said, no. I said, now you telling me that the judge knew you was innocent in your domestic violence situation, and you was innocent, but she said she was going to find you guilty anyway? I said, so you telling me R. Kelly, I had to act, you telling me R. Kelly is guilty, but I said, listen, how can you form your mouth to tell me that R. Kelly is guilty when you said that the judge knew you was innocent, but found you guilty anyway? See the point I'm making? See, some people gonna get it and some not. See, the judge in New York knew this man was innocent, but she found him guilty anyway. You see what I'm saying? The jury found him guilty anyway, and she still gave him 30 years, but she knew the man was innocent. And I said, so you telling me, how come you can't give R. Kelly the same benefit of the doubt? How come you can't be fair and just like God is? Because, see, God is a fair and just God. And when I sit up here and listen to folks go in that this man deserved to be under the ground of the prison and all this stuff, and in the tunnel under the prison, all this stuff. Well, you know what? If he belongs in the tunnel, that means he has a way to escape. And sometimes God will allow you to escape in the tunnel, and he'll put a light in the tunnel to help you escape. But I couldn't believe this man, how he formed his mouth to say it. And I said, if you know that the judge is going to find you guilty when you know you're innocent, and you got witnesses and to prove that you're innocent, and she heard the same testimony and still found you guilty, and you trying to tell me that R. Kelly? I said, why can't he get a fair trial? You already know. I said, you know that what she told you, right? So if she'll do it to you, what makes you think they won't do it to the next black man? And I rested my case. Dude, I mean, I tell you, some folks, you have to school. This was a black man that I'm out here having a conversation with. Some folks, you got to school. Some folks, you got to tell the story. But when you tell your story, tell the God-given truth. See, because there's a story that Lisa Van Allen told. There's a story that Chuck Freeman told. There's a story that they told. But it wasn't the God-given story, truth. You know, it wasn't the God-given truth story. And folks can see it for themselves now. See, we've been telling the story, but they didn't want to believe our story. But now we know, the media and the public knows their story, because R. Kelly was found not guilty on some major charges. That story, that allegation, those generational curses of lies have been floating around for years. But now the wrath of God is going to come up on them. The wrath of God is going to come up on them. That's why she was trying to get away, and the U.S. Marshals had to go get her. And see, let me tell you something. Folks try to control people with fear. She went around trying to control R. Kelly with fear. And it backfired. Because see, what you do to one, you do to others. What you do to one, you do to the rest of us. Ain't that what the word of God says? Paraphrasing it. So see, it backfired on her. It backfired. And now she has to deal with the backfiring, you know, and the backfiring can be dangerous. Because, you know, when you have a car that backfires and you driving down the street and it keep backfiring, it can start a fire. It can blow up. See, yeah, on the run. On the run because of her criminality. And see, people, you know, look, let me tell you something. Allegedly, but I could be wrong, but I stand on that. The real enterprise, and I got to add some folks. Because, you know, I did a video. I need to add some folks. The real enterprise, Lisa Van Allen, Keith Murrow, Chuck Freeman, Jim Derogatis, Michael Avenatti, Angelo Clary, Kimberly Fox. You know, when you look at the real enterprise, folks that had these tapes did not go to the authorities as they should have if they felt that it was, a minor on the tape. The real enterprise, trafficking, extorting, distribution. Oh, and Barry Haken said, thank you, him too. Distribution, promoting, production. The real enterprise. That was exposed in the courtroom. So if folks don't want to know the truth, leave them alone. Don't argue with them. Don't go back. And Sparkle. Actually, let me go back. Lisa Van Allen. Okay, Sparkle, Jim Derogatis, Lisa Van Allen, Chuck Freeman, Keith Murrow, Michael Avenatti, Angelo Clary, and Kimberly Fox. That's 8. The real enterprise. Now we know that some of them, and Susan Logan, that's 9. And we know that they didn't. The ones that should have been called didn't get called. And but the real enterprise. And I stand on that. I'm not. And Demetrius, man, I'm telling you, because he has something to do with it too. The real enterprise. And if folks can't see the real enterprise from the New York case to this one, I don't know what to tell you. You just gonna have to pray that God give you some discernment and some knowledge, because you have got to see the real enterprise. And it wasn't R. Kelly. And something else I didn't like, and because people trying to control the narrative by putting fear in folks' mind, and they don't want you talking about it. They don't want you talking the truth. They get mad, call you all out your name. You a pedophile and a perpetrator. I had someone to tell me to stop playing with words. I told him, I don't play with words, brother. I know words. Honey, I was a good reader. I was a good speller and all type of spelling bees. Brother, I don't play with words. A pedophile is somebody that messes with somebody that's prepubescent. And none of those females was prepubescent. Let's keep it real. We don't have to play with words. The definition is what it is. See, the truth don't need no help. But folks out here trying to make wrong right and right wrong. You can't do it. You can't make wrong right and right wrong. Wrong is wrong and right is right. And it's so many of them. Oh, it's so many of them. It's so many of the enterprise, man. It's a lot of the enterprise, and they all need to be charged. But they was given immunity because the government didn't have a strong case, and they paid them in some kind of way to say what they wanted them to say. See, trying to control the narrative again, trying to get them to do what they wanted them to do. And it's some folks that fell in the hands of a corrupt judicial Me Too movement, judicial system. They fell in the hands. But R. Kelly, stand strong, brother. You may have to stand alone. And it says, if I have to go, I'll go by myself. But you know what? You're not by yourself. You are not by yourself, because you have support and backing of the people that believe in justice and are against injustice. And somebody got to stand up and speak the truth and got to speak the word. And so anyway, let's get on back into this. So the anatomy of a control freak. See, there's a lot of folks out here that try to control the narrative, but it backfired. So in this book, there's a book called The Control Freak by Les Parrott III. And he lists 10 characteristics of a controlling person. One who is controlling is obnoxious. And you saw some obnoxious folks in this situation, right? In his camp, there was some obnoxious people. Geronda Pace was obnoxious and a liar. And she was out there at that first trial, right? 2008, obnoxious. Then she kept trying to jump the fence, and going over there. And then you had Bubba. Was it Bubba? If I'm wrong, correct me. I stand corrected. Put it in the chat. Up there, letting her come in, obnoxious. And maybe some other stuff, but y'all obnoxious. And then you got these tenacious folk. They tenacious, and you can see them, and they got this rah-rah going and all this. You already know. Stop trying to do all of that, because you ain't no smooth brother, and you're not a smooth female either. Stop it. And then invasive. They get all invasive with you and want to get all close. Stop it. Step back, brother. Step back, sister, because you not gonna get me caught up in the mess that you in, and you trying to bring people in that mess. And that's why I keep saying, no, I ain't playing that. When she got on Facebook trying to talk to them, because she wanted to control the narrative. She wanted to get to them so their story testimony aligned with hers. You see what I'm saying? And then you got obsessive folks. See, the government is obsessed with R. Kelly. I don't even know why the government is obsessed with R. Kelly, because there's some other good looking men out there. And isn't there some women that was on the prosecution side? They obsessed with R. Kelly. So is Kimberly Fox. Why y'all obsessed with a man? God gave y'all own man, but you're obsessed with this man for some reason. Y'all want to try out what they say the fake victims for profit tried out. So y'all want to try out. Y'all obsessed with this man. You're obsessed with his music. You're idolizing this man. And when you couldn't get to him, Tarana Burke too, and the rest of them, Dream Hampton, and what's that other one that was over there? All of them obsessed with this man. Obsessed. And they got so obsessed that they got mad and they got angry, and then they had to bring some false charges against this man. Obsessed. And then they act like they perfectionists. They act like they haven't never did nothing wrong. They haven't never made mistakes. They act like perfection, but then they doing stuff. See, you're gonna hear about some of these folks later on. You know, it'll come out. See, what you do in the dark shall come out. And another thing they obsessed with, let me back up. Obsessed with this man's sex life. Who in the world will be obsessed with somebody else's sex life unless you the wife or the partner and you're together? Otherwise, why are you obsessed with somebody else's sex life? Did you hear where the prosecutor said that R. Kelly got what he wanted? He took what he wanted. He was flipping her over and flipping her back. Let me tell you something, folks. We are adults, because this channel is not for, I always put it, is not for children. Know why? Because I might slip up and say something that'll offend children. So this is not for children. So let me tell you something. Who haven't flipped over and flipped back and forth in their bedroom when they're making love? So I ain't trying to hear no stuff. That was some foolish stuff, but obsessed with somebody's sex life. I was like, what? Just ridiculous. And then, you have the jury sitting there listening to that. And I said, they probably been flipping some folks in their bedroom too. So at the end of the day, stop with the foolishness. Stick to the facts. Stick to what's relevant. Stick to what's pertinent, because that's not pertinent. Because there's a lot of folks out here that's flipping folks back and forth. Okay? Now, and then they were critical. They felt it was critical to bring this case against this man. We're going to bring a case that he already faced, but we're going to make it a federal case. That way we can still bring it. They were critical in doing that. They felt it was critical to do it. And then they became irritable and easily angered. Controllers become irritable and easily angry. And you see where R. Kelly has never lashed out. He's never stood up in the court and yelled and screamed. He sat there. Now, he might have shed a few tears. Who would not? Because he's human. But he didn't lash out. He didn't say they lying on me. Like you seen some folks just get all indignant in the courtroom. They lying on me. He didn't have to do that. He's never had no contempt of court. So God bless his heart. And then you see that they were rigid. They lied. And then they twisted laws around to change the narrative. They were rigid and closed-minded. See, controllers are closed-minded. They don't see the truth. And when you put it in front of them, they still don't want to hear the truth. Closed-minded. And see, a lot of us have dealt with some closed-minded folks. And several have dealt with controlling people. We all have. So I'm going to tell you right now, say amen to the characteristics, because I'm going to say amen to the characteristics of a controlling person. And so the list ends with the observation that controlling people are rigid and closed-minded. And because this is true, they do not allow discussion about anything. As you see in the New York case, they didn't allow any discussion about his traumatic childhood. They didn't allow anything about what his pain and suffering has been. They didn't want to allow nothing about what he'd been through and how they used him and how there was a lot of other people that played and how they gave immunity for folks to get on the stand. They were closed-minded. Closed-minded. They didn't allow a discussion. Their approach is almost everything is my way or no way. That's how it was in the Me Too movement, courtroom with the officers of the court in New York City. It was my way or no way. And when others disagree with them, they try to make them feel stupid and inept. That's how they try these closed-minded people. Closed-minded people. And it can be frustrating when you're trying to share information and talk to folks, and they know everything, and they refuse to open their mind to any opinion besides their own. Those are people that are controlling. And you see the media, you see Gayle King, you see a lot of them did that. A lot of them did it. Exactly. Trying to control. Don't want to hear nothing. Refuse to hear something. But these are small-minded, prideful, fearful people, yet somehow they think they strong and powerful. And you know, Jennifer Bonjean said it in so many words. She said it in so many words when she gave the press conference at the end. They thought they were strong and powerful. And they angry because they didn't get the ones they wanted. And they didn't get the guilty verdicts on the ones they've been painting this narrative and running with this story that this man obstructed justice. He sent them on a trip. He paid them off, all that kind of stuff. They didn't get it. So but they got this false image of themselves, a false image of themselves. And there are several additional traits of controlling people. And let me get to that. I'm thanking you all for bearing with me because, we got to get to it. We got to get to the story. We got to get to it. The whole meat of the matter, everything has to be out there. So number one, controlling people orders, controlling people order others around. They want to order people around. They want to tell them what to do. And they don't really make polite requests. They just order you around. They simply bark orders. And whether they actually have any authority or not, they act as though they are the boss in every situation. I used to supervise this person like this, and I had to stop her because she was always interrupting the meetings, always saying stuff. She wanted to be more than who she really was, but she really didn't see who she really was. But we saw it. We actually saw it. My the other team members saw who she really was. And so they rarely ever say thank you or please. They just want to tell you what to do. And they are demanding. And if anyone mounts even the slightest resistance, they resort to intimidation. They wanted to intimidate this man. See, controllers like to intimidate folks, and not just R. Kelly, but other people too, us too. They want to intimidate you. They even may threaten ending a relationship. That's what I was saying earlier. Bodily harm, loss of privileges, and other actions they believe would be painful or difficult for the person who will not blindly do as they ask. They will threaten you. Yes, they will. Thank you. They will threaten you. They will make it difficult for you. They do a lot of that stuff, and they often employ the tactics of manipulation and intimidation to help them reach their goal of control. And wasn't there a couple of witnesses, or maybe one or two, that said that they felt intimidated, they wouldn't, and they felt manipulated, that they wanted them to say what they wanted them to say? And then number two, controlling people are volatile when angry because they become violent when they get angry. They become violent and they will harm you. They will they fly into a rage. And they will harm you. So, like I said, you have to be prepared to protect you. You have to value you on every level. Because, see, let me tell you something. When your attacker come for you, you got to be prepared to defend yourself at every cost. Because you got to think of yourself. I value me over you when an attacker comes. And so you do not have to succumb to this nonsense of people trying to control the narrative and trying to control your life, because God is still in control. No matter where you are, God is still in control. Okay. And sometimes they'll try to control the people around you, but God can heal you and he can deliver you from those folks. He can deliver you from that. Exactly. And so, and then there's number three. Controlling people manipulate by trying to make you feel guilty or as though you owe them something. See, all we owe is the truth and to live our life the way that God called us righteously. That's all we really owe, to do what's right. We don't owe it for nobody else to try to tell, to live according to their standards. We owe it to live according to God's standards and what he instills in us to do. We have free will. God gave it to us. So we don't have to give up our free will to man or anybody else or stuff because God gave us a choice. Okay. And there are some folks out here trying to manipulate you into being what they want you to be, into doing what they want you to do and saying. And they tried to break this man. And they trying to break other folks. They tried to silence us, people that spoke out about injustice. Because it ain't just they tried to paint the picture, y'all just some crazy radical. No. We know the truth. And we got to speak out when we see injustice. We got to kill it. We got to kill injustice. And we got to give life to justice. Life to justice and kill injustice. Okay, so I urge you to be wise enough to recognize the traits and these tactics and resist them wholeheartedly. Stand on the promises and know when you got folks trying to control, and we see it in the government all the time. They'll even put money and dangle money in front of you to try to get you to get the vote for them. They want to control the votes. We've seen so much mess that we should have learned something by now. The pandemic, see, just over the years, we should have learned something. But then when the pandemic came, we should have learned even more. That's the time to really get down and study and meditate and learn. We have got to do that. And we can't stop doing it. And see, the longer that we allow someone to control us, the more difficult it is to break free from their grasp. And that's a true statement. So more you allow it, the more it becomes difficult. If you eat ice cream every day because you love ice cream, and when it's time to change your eating habits, it's going to be difficult because you're going to have withdrawals because you ate ice cream every day that you loved ice cream. It's going to be difficult. And it's other stuff too. It's not just food, having an addiction to food. It's the more you allow it, the more it's harder to release yourself from it, to deliver yourself from that. But see, we cannot live an authentic life and celebrate our uniqueness unless we live in freedom. We have to be free from the tactics of being controlled. And like I said, I named a lot of them in the beginning, and you can replay this if you came in late. And so to embrace who God has made us to be, we must live under the influence and guidance of the Holy Spirit, not under the control of any human being. And I know we have to follow some laws and we got to do what's right. I understand that. But we should not be controlled by these systems and people. Exactly. See, the enemy, and you know who the enemy is. He's got a lot of different names, and he come in different disguises. And he will always try to use our weaknesses against us. But where we are weak, God will give us strength. And God will forgive us of our weaknesses when we fall down. But when you wicked, like them folks we've seen and watched, they have to recognize and know that they're wicked in order for them to be delivered. See, there's a difference between weakness and wickedness. And there were some wicked people. Wicked. And all we could do is pray for them and continue to be a beacon of hope and light for others that are being subjected to injustice, that are being subjected to being controlled because they want to control something. Exactly. That happens too, Miss Tanya. Yeah, exactly. And it's a sad case. It's a sad situation. And see, we all can relate to somebody trying to control us. And it happens a lot. It happens in all types of situations. But no matter how it has affected your life, there is hope for you. You don't have to live that way. And when we go to the next chapter, when I come on again, we're going to be talking about breaking free from the power of control. Breaking free from the power of control. So I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Right. Exactly. Coming in, joining in. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for coming in. Don't forget, if you haven't already done it, to thumbs up the video on your way out. If you haven't done it, share the video. Share the video. And again, thank all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for wanting to hear some stuff, some good stuff, not beefing. You know, I don't have time for that, but some good stuff. Stuff that can help us grow, stuff that can level us up, stuff that can move mountains if you allow it. Because if we don't want to hear things that can help us grow, then how will we grow? How will we be able to be delivered from the controlling hands of a corrupt judicial system, government, prosecutors, the Me Too movement? I can name some stuff. I can keep it going and name it. And see, my channel has other stuff I talk about too, because we got to bring the truth. We got to stand on the forefront and bring the truth. So thank you all so much for coming in. Have a beautiful day. Have a great weekend and be safe out there. Be safe out there. And don't forget to check in with God.